Welcome back. Today, my very special guest is Mr. Chris Fry from the Ambulance Service. Chris, why don't you tell us about some great things going on over at the Ambulance Service right now?
Well, the good thing about Baxter Regional Ambulance Service is that there's always new things going on. We're definitely not the standard ambulance service that just kind of rests on its morals. Gerald Cantrell's our director, and he's constantly thinking up new ideas. It's almost visionary, some of the things he comes up with. He'll come to me and tell me that I've got to come up with numbers or whatever to make a project work, and sometimes we look at it and it's kind of overwhelming, but we've got some really good things going on, and I'll touch base on a couple of them because we have limited time. But the overall is that Baxter Regional is an ambulance service that is kind of cutting edge. One of the things that makes us cutting edge is our medical director, Brad Schultz, is a former paramedic, and he worked for us for years, and then he went away to medical school. In medical school, he became a doctor. He came back as an ER doctor, but he's our medical director. So he has a unique insight into how ambulance services work. Right. But he said from the very beginning when he came back that Baxter Regional was going to be the service in the nation, not the service in Arkansas. He said it was going to be in the nation, which, you know, that's a really big wire for us to hit. But he immediately started drilling into it with, you know, we've been working on things like the community paramedic program, and we got that passed, and the governor signed the law into effect. We're getting all kinds of awards, everything from, you know, Arkansas Mission STEMI Lifeline Awards to, of course, last year we were Arkansas Service of the Year, which was great. But we're constantly striving for those things because we want to improve the service that we have. I'll talk a little bit more about the Mission Lifeline project in the second half of our meeting, I think. But for right now, I think I'll discuss both RSI and our dispatch center. Our dispatch center is really important in that when you call for an ambulance, you're going to get a dispatcher on the line that is an educated dispatcher. It's not just a person answering the phone. A lot of ambulance services, if you're not in a big metropolitan area, they're going to have either grandma or the wife of the owner or somebody like that will answer the phone, and they'll do their best to get you an ambulance sent to you. All right. But we have what's called medically trained dispatchers. They're internationally certified. They hold a certification that allows them to practice. They're not just hired off the street. There's a lot of training there. But when they start answering or asking you questions, they're asking you questions from a battery of already proven questions that allow us to collect information. And that information is immediately being ported out into the ambulances, allowing the crews to see much of the information that you're giving them. They also get routing to the scene. So very quickly, once we get your address, a decent route appears taking to your home. And if you live in Baxter or Marion counties, you know how hard that can be, even if you know where you're going. Absolutely. Much less 2 in the morning when an ambulance is trying to find your house. You know, many people, they'll let trees and things overgrow the number to their house, or the numbers will fall off, and then at 2 in the morning they want emergency ambulance care, and we'll drive up and down the road looking for house 207, and all we found is house 20. Makes them hard to find. 7. Oh, it does. It just makes it so difficult. So the GPS that's in the trucks really helps us come directly to your home. So our dispatch center is really effective, and it's very different than any dispatch center you'll see anywhere else. Baxter's invested a lot of money in making sure that we're effectively able to take your call and then give you medical advice over the phone. A normal dispatcher that just talks to you is just going to send an ambulance. But if your husband's fallen off the roof or your child is in danger or something, our medical dispatchers will give you medical advice over the phone that is approved by doctors on how to take care of your family member or the hurt person until we arrive. And that can be instrumental. That is just massive that that person's being taken care of until we get there. So you'll always have basically a lifeline or an angel on the phone line with you, and it's our dispatchers, because our dispatchers are going to stay on the line with you if you need help, and they're going to walk you through it. We find that to be very important. Another thing, if I have just a moment still to talk and haven't gone too far, is our ambulance service is one of only, I think right now it's about 3 in the entire state that's allowed to do what's called RSI, which is rapid sequence intubation. Some of these procedures are very cutting edge and very very much so on the forefront. However, they can be very dangerous, and this is why the state has not given the authority to most ambulances to do what I'm about to talk about. But with rapid sequence intubation, we intubate people to control their airway. So if you vomit, you don't breathe it in. You know, that's how all the rock stars die, is they vomit and breathe it back in. Yeah. Well, what we do, when we put a tube in your throat, and you've seen this on Rescue 911 and Emergency and all those TV shows, you'll see a man like this with what we call a laryngoscope putting a tube into somebody's throat. Right. What we're doing is we're protecting the airway. The end of that tube goes into your lungs, but there's a balloon on it that protects you from breathing in that vomit. That's very important in a car wreck or something where you're breathing in blood, or even a code where you might breathe in your vomit. The problem is that if someone is badly injured and their body is still moving, like seizing or fighting with you, it's very difficult to put that tube in and protect you. And realistically, most services can't address that. What we do is we've been given the authority by both the state of Arkansas and by our medical director to do this procedure I've described called RSI. And it's where we give you a cocktail of drugs that basically paralyzes you and turns you off like a switch. Once you're turned off, it's very easy for us to take care of very serious injuries, to get you to the appropriate place. And it helps long term in that you don't have all of the trauma of that moment in your brain. We've kind of turned you off, and we'll turn you on when you're better. And I think that's really important. I definitely know that if I'm in a really bad car wreck and I'm hurting all over and not breathing well, I hope somebody can turn me off and wake me up when I'm doing a little bit better.
Absolutely.
So we find those to be very important. We're doing a lot of things that are just totally out of the box. We're always available to give tours or show people or explain more of what we're doing. We have such a limited amount of time. I just wanted to touch on the really quick high points, and then I think maybe in the second part we might go a little bit deeper. The RSI component that we're dealing with really is a badge for us because we're doing really well at it. We've been doing at least 3 a month now over the last year or two, and it takes definitely a special level of training. The physician that's authorizing it, he's authorizing it in such a way that only a limited number of the paramedics are even able to do it. You have to go through a certain number of hoops, basically proving to our doctor, to our medical director, Brad Schultz, that you're capable of doing this effectively. We are constantly looking at the numbers between Baxter and Marion counties to station our trucks better, to make sure that we're closest and in the areas where the most runs are going to hit, to try to be more effective at that. A lot of people, you know, all our ambulances are painted the same. And I've had a lot of people ask me if we only have one ambulance because they think it all looks the same. We actually have 12 ambulances.
12 ambulances,
12.
Wow.
We've got about 5 or 6 on the road at any given time. As we speak right now, there's 5 or 6 between Baxter and Marion counties that are just roaming or at one of the bases waiting. We usually have 3 that are held back basically to go on transfers. And then we usually have 2 or 3 that we use as backups for oil changes, maintenance, and stuff like that. So it takes basically 12 ambulances to keep 6 on the road. And that's just that's a normal ratio. Most services you'll see that if you want one, you got to have 2. Because when one goes in for the oil change, you got to have the other.
Makes sense.
And that's kind of how we cover this county, or these 2 counties. Very, very large area, big demographic, and that's how we do it.
That's amazing. It sounds like there's just so much cutting edge technology. I think that we're really blessed, it sounds like, to have those types of services available here in our area.
Typically, a rural area like this would not have that level of hospital or ambulance service. It's our demographic. We have a very, very large retirement community in this area. And to be honest, and I'm going to give a shout out to our volunteers, we have an amazing group of volunteers that basically, I mean, I'll give you an example. One of our volunteer husband-wife couples recently donated a Life Pack 15 to us. I was doing a tour, and we haven't had a lot of money to work with this year. It's been a tight year, and we needed a Life Pack 15, and I was doing the tour, and during the tour I didn't have one that I could show the people, and this husband-wife couple went to Barney Larry and said, how can we help? We're told that they need a Life Pack 15. We'd like to buy it. Now,
wow.
Mind you, a Life Pack 15 is more than a new car, and they just bought it for us. And that is amazing commitment to this community to have people like that that are willing to do that. I just think that's immense.
That's amazing.
I thank you for the opportunity to
Yeah.
discuss those things. These are amazing people.
Yeah, and just the foundation as a whole, and everybody that gives to the foundation. I think that we're blessed as a community to have things like that that gives us the resources to kind of provide some of that cutting edge technology.
You're absolutely right, Tobias. No doubt about it.
When we come back, we're going to talk to Chris about the new STEMI program over at the hospital. But first, we're going to take a quick break.